Because Harambam writes in Hilchot Avodah Zarah that it's a problem to say Tehillim for somebody who's ill, right? So I'll read you that Rambam if I can manage to pull it up. It's in Hilchot Avodah Zarah, Perek Yud Aleph, Halacha Yud Bet. Let's see if I can find it here. That's not that, not that, not that. Yeah, okay. So Rambam writes as follows. He says, Halohesh al Makkah, if a person kind of says incantations on a wound, V'koreh pasuk min Torah, and reads a pasuk in the Torah as if it's an incantation, right? In other words, as if saying these words are going to fix the wound, heal the wound. Okay? V'chen hakoreh al tinok shelo yiba'et. And so too, if a person says things so that a child should, calm down, or for that matter, hameniach sefer Torah or tefillin ala katan, or a person puts a sefer Torah or tefillin or mezuzah or whatever it is on a baby, bishvil shishan, so the baby should sleep. Rambam says lo dai lahem. He doesn't just say it's asur. He says lo dai lahem. It's not enough. Shehem bichlal menachashim mechoverim. Right? It's not enough that they, by doing so, by the incantations of Pesukim, as if these words are going to somehow create a healing vibe, right, or a healing mechanism on these things. It's not enough that they have, by doing that, made themselves into Menachashim and Choverim, which are in Isur Deoraita, right? Not only that, they can be included in people that basically reject and do not believe in Torah. Why? There's very harsh things to say. Because what they do is they take the Torah and make it as something that heals physical bodies, right? Rather than what it's meant to do by the study of it to heal the soul, spiritually heal us. As it says in Mishle, V'yu hayim lenafshecha. Okay, so this is what Harambam writes. And then he says, Aval habari. But a person who's healthy, shekara pesukin umizmor tehillim kedesh tagen alav zechut kriyatan, right? That if a person who's healthy reads tehillim, so that the zechut of having read these things will keep him well and in good standing, v'yinatzel mitzarot, and be secured from anything bad happening to him, harei ze mutar, that's permitted. Which implies that everything that Harambam just said is asur, right? The fact that he says it's an isur deoraita of menachashim choverim, and that they're bichlal kofrim b'Torah, that's a serious problem. So now, still, it doesn't answer your question entirely, more, right? Because I have to talk about both sides of it. Because Harambam does say that if a person says it for the protection of not getting sick, that's mutar, right? So clearly, there's something different about it, right? There's something different about saying it when you're healthy in order to be able to bring a certain element of protection, as opposed to saying it in order to be able to heal what is wounded or physically damaged. Okay, so first thing that I'll say is, people say when they read this Rambam or when they hear from this Rambam, they say, "Well, it's what we do today." So this is an example of what I was just saying. Well, it's what everybody does. So that's, in this case, it's not valid what everybody does, in my opinion. I don't think it's valid what everybody does. Here, Rambam is saying things that are so hamur. Right? He's saying it's not enough that it's an isur deoraita, right? I mean, people are nizhar on isurim de rabbanan that are much less in their severity than this. Yeah, they're so careful in isurim de rabbanan that are much less in their severity than this. Is an isur deoraita of menachashim and choverim. And Harambam says they're kofrim b'Torah. So you talk about being mahmir. Should this not be something that a person should be mahmir on? There was a rabbi recently, a friend of mine, a close friend of mine, rabbi, and he saw that I don't carry, because I'm noheg not to carry even in an eruv usually, and unless there's a tzorech gadol or whatever it is. And he said, well, what other things are you mahmir on, rabbi? Because he didn't see that I was mahmir particularly on a lot of other things when he was spending time supposed to spend Shabbat with me. I said to him, I'm pretty much mahmir on Sefer HaMadah. And the reason I'm mahmir on Sefer HaMadah is because they karei Torah, the Yesodei Torah. It's Avodah Zarah, Yesodei Torah, De'ot, how it is that we are in terms of our growth and treating other people. Those are things I'm mahmir on. And this, I'm mahmir on. Why? Because when I hear Harambam saying to me that this is Bichlal min hashim v'choverim kofrim Torah, it's not something I want to play around with. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay, there's other people who do it. So in this case, in my opinion, it is a terrible problem to be able to do it. What is the other side of it, right? That Harambam is talking about, that if a bari reads it, zichut kriyat again. What is zichut kriyat? So it's important to understand what Harambam. The first part of it, literally, Harambam was saying are incantations. So anytime if a person reads Tehillim as though it's a spell book, right? In other words, if I say these words backwards, forwards, 3 times, and so on and so forth, that somehow these things will work for me. It's asur in any instance, bari, hole, whatever the case may be, it's asur to do that. Why? Because I'm trying to say some kinds of things that will magically help me. And Harambam says very clearly, what he says with regards to the bari is that the zechut of the kriya. What is the zechut of the kriya? The merit of the kriya. What is the zakai nature of reading Tehillim? Well, you ask in your question, what are Tehillim? And Tehillim is precisely what it is that the name suggests. They're praises of God. And they're beautiful, beautiful, eloquent, clear, multifaceted praises of God. And they are praises that are so wonderful that when we read them, we feel like the one who wrote them, will accept that David HaMelech was the chief editor, that he spoke words that our hearts felt, but perhaps we don't have the words to say. That you speak these things before God. You have a knowledge at the very least of what you're saying. Right? And that's something that I always tell people. That's something I always tell people. That if you're going to read Tehillim, at least know what you're reading. And if you can read praises, yes, Mr. David is asking me, is reading the same as learning? No, it's not the same as learning. I'm not saying learn Tehillim. I'm saying read Tehillim. Read the words. Understand what you're saying. And from the pure reading and understanding what you're saying, if your mind is on the words that you're saying, you're talking to God. And you're talking to God in Shebach. You think that when you talk to God in Shebach, that doesn't stand as a zechut for the person? And of course that protects a person. So that's mutar. Of course it's mutar to do. Even if your intention is that I want to keep connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu so that I hold well. It's not the highest level of the reading, right? You should read it just because you want to praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But if that's how you begin, so good, wonderful. There's nothing wrong with that. And so what I will suggest is, right, to be melamed zechut on Rov Klal Yisrael, because I'm afraid to say something chas v'shalom negative about Rov Klal Yisrael and this behavior that they do, right? If they do it in incantation, it's really they're doing something wrong. But in general, what I tell people to do is, if you're asked to read Tehillim for somebody who's unwell, read it, understand what you're saying, and say it as a Shebach HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that Shebach, hopefully in your consciousness of the person that's sick, should be able to be zocheh to help them in whatever way, but not as an incantation. And I hope you can understand the difference of what it is that I'm saying, because I'm making a subtle difference, but it's a very, very important difference. And I think it makes the difference between being a menahesh and a hover haver and a chas v'shalom kofer Torah to being a person that's helping a fellow person through their relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that is not manipulative. So I'll leave it at that.